This is the first group drawing that I have ever done of the Straw Hat Pirates thus far. Truth be told, I started working on it a couple weeks ago at the end of the East Blue Saga and just finished it today. So, hope you enjoy, brothers and sisters.
One Piece, Chapter 115, Little Garden of Adventure.
Good evening, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the epic tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us with the Straw Hats setting out and being, on their ship and on their way to Little Garden. The chapter actually ended with them kind of just being on their way, and then us also seeing a quick glimpse, a one-page glimpse of Little Garden, and we did see a tiger. And the tiger was standing next to some giant footprints, and I mean bigger than Bigfoot. We're talking more like King Kong size footprints. So without further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? The first several pages kind of start off, and it's really just a little bit of a character development type of deal. Everybody's kind of having a good time on the ship. Princess Vivi is having a little bit of trouble unwinding at first. And Sanji's coming out, and he's like, "Hey, I made some new drinks. Everybody try them, And she's just like, she looks to Nami, and she's just like, "Should they be drinking?" And Nami's like, "They'll be fine, If a storm comes, if the shit hits the fan, they'll be on call. They don't want to die either." And she's like, "It's a good time though. Everybody's relaxing, and have fun." And Vivi's like, she goes, "Yeah, it is kind of relaxing, So she kind of, you see, she's starting to loosen up a little bit around this crew, these people. So we then go and see, before we actually get to Little Garden, we see it's kind of cool. They go and they're like, "Wow, look!" And you see this dolphin kind of jump out of the water. It's a dolphin! And then they show on the next page, like, "It's huge!" And you see the dolphin literally like dwarfs, like the ship is like the size of my fist. The dolphin's like the size of like the width of the camera. It's just this giant thing arcing up over him. And Luffy's like, "Oh, get ready!" And he's thinking he's gonna have to maybe fight or something like that. But they wind up being okay. Nami goes and there's a really kind of cool shot of her looking through the log pose, kind of doing one of these type of deals, and she's got one eye closed and one eye open looking through the log pose, keeping her eye on that. And Vivi had warned her that basically, like, listen, the seas here, they were real bad, with the snow and everything else, where the seven magnetic paths start to kind of diverge back by Reverse Mountain. So they're not as bad here, but it's still unpredictable, still, worse than sailing a normal ocean. This is the Grand Line, after all. So we find that out, and then we go and we see, and Nami's like, "No, that's definitely it. That's our next destination after the Cactus Island." And so we wind up seeing Little Garden from a distance, and as we get closer to it, we see that it's just this large jungle, like overgrown, with trees and vegetation and just huge trees. And as they kind of go and sail, down a little inlet, similar to in the last island, they're talking about how they maybe need some supplies and this and that. Usopp, of course, is still scared that there may be some monsters, and they're like, "Hey, we don't know." And even Vivi says, "Miss All Sunday warned us about, about this island," and they're like, "Well, do you think she was telling the truth?" and this and that. So basically, what winds up happening is we go and they wind up kind of docking. And the crew is split amongst things. Luffy's just like, "Okay, I'm going for a walk, I'm going to take off and explore a little bit. I'm going on an adventure." And he tells Sanji, "Pack me a lunch, pack me a pirate box lunch." And then it says in the captions what pirate box lunch means: a lunch with no vegetables, only meat for energy, right? So anyway, then Vivi says, "You know what, I'm just going to get stir-crazy being here anyway. Besides, Carue, I'll be fine, because they're asking her, 'Are you going to be okay?' And she's like, 'I'll be fine. Carue will protect me.'" And Carue's like shaking, her giant duck. He's shaking. He doesn't want to go. But so they're going to go set off on their journey. Sanji goes and, of course, packs the princess a lovely lunch and gets Carue a drink like she asks. And they kind of go off and get set off on their way. And we see, Usopp and Nami are kind of the mind of, "Hey, let's just stay on the ship until the log pose, is reset and records the magnetic field of this island to get us to the next island, right?" And Zoro goes and he's like, all of a sudden he just hops off and he announces, he's like, I'm taking a walk." I'm like, "What, you're taking a walk? What are you talking about, right?" So Sanji goes and says, "Hey, listen, we're kind of low on food. If you see anything out there that's edible, bring it back, right?" So Zoro and Sanji kind of got this, like, it's basically like a whose dick is bigger contest, and I'm sorry for the female viewers out there if that sounds sexist, but that's the truth. It really is. It's a big swinging dick contest is what it is. So Zoro goes and makes mention of I could bag a, I'll bag something that you couldn't, and Sanji's like, wait, that sounds like a challenge, So they go and they challenge each other to this contest and go storming off in separate ways. It looks like separate ways off into the to the jungle, this big giant overgrown jungle, and because they're gonna have a contest for who can bag the largest animal, I guess the largest kill, right? So then we go and we see Nami and Usopp kind of talking a little bit, and while Nami and Usopp are talking amongst themselves, all of a sudden it kind of hits Nami, and she's like, I read about this place, I just can't remember where. So she goes down into the ship, and she's like just tearing books off the wall, looking for stuff, trying to figure out what it was that she couldn't remember about this island, right? It then goes and it takes us over to Luffy and Princess Vivi, and they're kind of tramping off through the woods over there, and all of a sudden they see what to me looks like maybe like a brachiosaurus head or something like that in the woods. They first wind up seeing this little crab, and she calls it an animite, I think, or something like that. But and Luffy's like, oh, you mean armored crab or armored squid or armored whatever? But they wind up seeing the head of this giant, what looks like to me it would be a dinosaur. Initially, Luffy goes and calls out a Neptunian or Sea King, for those of you that I just read what that says in my book, but I'm not going to get into debate about it this time. So anyway, they're not Neptunians or Sea Kings; they're dinosaurs. And we find out very quickly after that, Vivi basically says, she goes, these islands of the Grand Line, they were basically unaffected by change over the millions of years, or thousands or whatever of years. So some of them basically just kept the same climate, the same, because they're so isolated, right? So we find out that this is pretty much like a prehistoric, there's dinosaurs here, right? So Luffy goes and is screwing around, and he's going and like sliding down the Brachiosaurus's neck and having a good old time. And then it kind of flashes back to Nami still digging through those books and looking, and of course Usopp and everything. And Nami goes and finally figures out, as a matter of fact, what it was that she was looking for. So she goes and she finds the book that she had read this in about Little Garden. And she comes over and she tells Usopp, she's like, I found it, And as she goes and says she found it, it's kind of cool because they show like just a faraway shot of the ship, the side of the ship. And in the woods and the trees, about everything being big here and everything else, you see like the form of something gigantic with like these little glowing eyes, And she goes and she's like, that's why this place is called Little Garden. She's got the book, she's flipping through it, And she shows Usopp, she's like, it's called Little Garden because to its inhabitants, everything seems tiny. It's basically Little Garden is like the land of giants, So that's how things end up over here, and that's how the chapter ends. And I think it's really going to be a good one. I personally love dinosaur type things and whatever it may be with giants, ogres, monsters, what have you. So it seems like it'll be a pretty cool place, if not very dangerous. So, but anyway, I guess my chapter question is: given the circumstances, there was two different ways that kind of everybody split on these things. There was the whole, let's stay on the ship and just record the magnetic field and go. I mean, they've already been warned by Miss All Sunday, right, that this is bad, they're going to die if they go there. It's, Little Garden's a rough place. But what would your choice be? Would you just, because I know my choice would be stay on the ship. Honestly, it would be like, hey, you know what? We don't really need to leave for anything. We've already been warned that this is a death trap. Let's just stay on the ship till the log pose records and get the hell out of here, right? Or would you want to go explore the island, go on an adventure, restock on food, see what it has to offer, right? So let me know the answer to the question in the comments down below, brothers and sisters. Feel free to leave a like, a thumbs up if you should think that I deserve it. And then, of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, nation.
Remember, brothers and sisters, to share, subscribe, spread the word of the nation to others. And of course, if you like watching the videos, watching them is always much appreciated. Have a nice day.